What I'm hoping to accomplish today, and what I hear from parents as I'm working around the country and speaking around the country, oftentimes as parents say, oh, I've been thinking these things so often, but I've never been able to put them into words. And you put into words what I've been thinking about youth soccer, about the experiences that I've been having with my child or my children in the game. So again, that's one of the key objectives of today, is that you'll realize that your thoughts are being put into words so that you can start to take action upon them. I also am going to be talking a lot about the coach-parent relationship. And so therefore, I'm hoping that this will provide you an opportunity to really rethink that relationship, to rethink the amount of engagement that you have within the youth soccer experiences of your children. We'll go into just some different ideas and some different ways of thinking about that. To start with, to tell you a little bit about the mission of the Soccer Parenting Association, we're seeking to elevate the game by engaging, by educating, by supporting, and by advocating for youth soccer parents. So elevating, engaging, educating, and supporting are really important parts of our mission, and things that we feel like we're doing every day as we're trying to drive the mission of the Soccer Parenting Association forward. A little bit about who we are and what we do. For a long time, it was just me as part of the Soccer Parenting Association, but I'm thrilled to have these amazing expert contributors that are working alongside me to provide content to parents and to coaches all the time, as we're really trying to, again, rethink the youth soccer environment that our children participate in. You can learn about our expert contributors on our websites. If you go to contributors or experts and that tab, you'll be able to see everybody's bio. But what we're trying to do is solve the problems that we've all been experiencing in youth soccer, as well as really trying to bring in the parents who maybe aren't having problems, but really trying to bring them in and engage them in the process so that we can ensure that all children are able to thrive. I have a few different websites. The Soccer Parenting Association home website is soccerparenting.com. That's where most of you have visited. It's our public blog. It's where I push out a lot of the content that's shared socially and that's shared publicly. I also have a whole different website called mysoccerparenting.com. Many of you who are here today are members at mysoccerparenting.com through club memberships or through individual memberships, so thank you very much. mysoccerparenting.com is an education platform that is exclusively for parents, with content that is generated and created with parents in mind. And we'll talk a lot about the different content that's there. Well, I also have the Soccer Parenting Summit. I was thrilled to host the first Soccer Parenting Summit last December. We'll be hosting the 2017 Soccer Parenting Summit the first weekend in December. Thrilled to bring all of these expert contributors into your homes over the course of the weekend. Last year we pushed out 21 interviews over the course of the weekend. This year it will be something very similar. So be on the lookout for more information about that. So let's talk about elevating the game and what that really means. When we're seeking to do that, we're really focusing on, to start with, your child. You know, this is a picture here in the orange of my daughter, Callie, and this was a number of years ago. She's 16 years old now, but I started the Soccer Parenting Association when she was about this age, because I wanted her to thrive, and I became acutely aware of a lot of the stress that I was feeling. You know, I'm a former professional player, I'm a former collegiate player, I was an All-American in college and as a youth player. I've been an active youth coach for over 25 years. I've worked at the highest levels of soccer, and I'm an active coach educator for United Soccer Coaches. So I really am super involved with the game, yet I was feeling a lot of stress for my child, and I wanted Callie to be able to thrive in soccer. And so when we're talking about elevating the game, we're obviously talking about our individual children. We're also talking about all children. You know, this is sort of a call to action for all the level-headed parents out there to get more engaged and more involved, and we'll talk about that. And we also need to focus on this next generation of children as well. We want to make sure that we elevate the game into the future, and we really are seeing this be the beginning of a real movement. When parents get more educated and more engaged, we really will change the face of youth soccer. We are starting to do that, and it's really, really exciting. I'm starting to see that, you know, priorities that that U.S. Soccer has, that United Soccer Coaches has of engaging parents more and educating them, and people are starting to see the importance of that. It's truly been the missing link for so many years. And so now as we're starting to dive into educating and engaging parents more, we really are seeing the game will be elevated, and that will sustain us for generations to come. So this is what I talk to parents about a lot when I'm speaking. You know, when we get engaged, then we're empowering a youth soccer environment where all children can thrive. And of course, that's what we're seeking. We care about our individual children, but we will really want all children to thrive. So to do this, we need to rethink the parent-coach relationship. We need to rethink the type of relationship, and to start with, let's sort of evaluate where we've been with it. So the relationship between parents and coaches is pretty confusing right now. It's not clearly defined, and this is a result of a few factors. One of them is this first concept here, this professionalization of youth soccer. So when I was growing up in the game, all of our coaches were, for the most part, parent coaches. My first paid coach was a paid trainer that came in to work with us once, maybe twice a month, and that actually was Jill Ellis's father, John Ellis. So that was the first paid coach or paid environment that we had. And slowly, as sports and as soccer has been professionalized, parents feel like, oh, well, that coach is the expert, so now I don't need to be involved. So we'll let them be involved. And that's not always necessarily the best case if the coach isn't necessarily working in the best interest of the children, or it's not necessarily the best thing if parents aren't engaged in the process. And so through this professionalization, they were sort of pushed away. We also need to be really aware of the soccer culture that we have just in general in the United States. Our soccer culture from US soccer down has this concept of, you know, people in authority aren't necessarily going to interact with people under them, so to speak. I'm thrilled to say that I really believe that this is starting to change. I've been collaborating some this last couple of weeks with Frank Tashan from US Soccer, and I'm thrilled to see just the mentality that they're having in their coach education as far as engaging parents and how important that is, and teaching coaches how to work with parents even more. So I believe this is changing, but historically we need to understand the culture. I tell the story sometimes that when I personally was getting my B license, I had a question about the topic. So in your license, you're given a topic, and then you have to create a practice around it, and then you have to present the practice to the instructors who are evaluating you using the other candidates in the course as players for your practice. And I had a question about what I was given. And so I went up to my instructor. Of course, I was a little nervous and asked him about it. And the response I got from him was completely shutting me down. You know, oh, I can't talk to you about this. You need to talk to the other candidates. And, you know, that in that moment, the stress that I felt, or just the frustration that I felt, the lack of connection that I felt, was really a demonstration of the soccer culture. That's the environment that our coaches who have gone through US soccer coaching education historically have been witness to. And they've brought that back into the youth soccer environment that they're working in. And so that coach, the instructor talking to me that way, is very similar to the coach maybe pushing the parent away. We also need to understand these power perceptions. This is what I call them. You know, when I talk to coaches, they think that the parents have all the power in the youth soccer relationship. They feel as though, you know, the parents can make their life miserable, they can get them fired, all of these things. When I talk to parents, we feel that the coaches have all the power in the relationship. They're the ones that decide if our child plays or not. They're the ones that can make our child's life miserable if they're not acting in their best interest, or, you know, the power is very confusing between these two parties. And so we need to just acknowledge that as we're rethinking this parent-coach relationship. One of the key focuses of the Soccer Parenting Association for this next year is to really be pushing through to our organizations like US Soccer and like United Soccer Coaches, formerly the NSCAA, to talk to them about and to push the effort with them about educating coaches and the importance of educating coaches and concepts like emotional intelligence. So coaches are gaining skills in how to talk to parents and how to engage better with parents. Those are things that historically coaches have not received any education or very little education about. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why we have the relationship that we have. So as we're rethinking this relationship, one of the key things that needs to happen is that coaches need to get more training. And then we cannot forget the crazy soccer parents. I talk about crazy soccer parents a lot in the Soccer Parenting platform. And really, we need to acknowledge their role in this coach-parent relationship. Just briefly, this is how I describe a crazy soccer parent. Crazy soccer parents are irrational. They are living vicariously through their child. They have unrealistic expectations for their child. They don't listen to you. They don't hear what you're really saying. There's actually little that can be done to help a crazy soccer parent. I think there's really no hope for them. I think we need to start ignoring them and not give them any power. Because when I talk to coaches, this is what I say. When we don't give parents a voice, when we push them away, we're actually causing the problems that we're frustrated with. And so what coaches have historically done is that I don't want to deal with parents because they're all crazy, and so therefore I'm not going to engage with parents at all. And that's really, truly not fair. It's not fair because the vast majority of soccer parents are actually level-headed soccer parents. They're just parents that are sometimes stressed. And they're sometimes stressed because they've been pushed away because they don't have any education or information. And so that's one of the key problems that I'm trying to solve. Before I move on, I also want to say that we need to think about, as parents, we're in fear of being portrayed as a crazy soccer parent oftentimes. And so therefore, we don't get as involved and we don't speak up and we don't have a voice, or we don't follow our instincts sometimes because we're also in fear of the crazy soccer parent. So it's time to just rid our sidelines, rid the youth soccer environment of the crazy soccer parent by just taking away their power and instead realizing what we can do to help. And one of the key things that we can do is just to get a little bit more engaged. I see that there are 12 of you that are here. That's great. I would love to hear from you if you can pop in the questions section about things that you're stressed about. You know, what are things as youth soccer parents these days that you find are stressful? What are some of the key triggers for you all? I obviously talk to a lot of parents about that as I'm talking across the country, working for the Soccer Parenting Association or for the Changing the Game project. So I hear a lot about things that parents are stressed about. This new world of the girls' DA. I hear you, Rachel. I'm actually I'm starting to think that there can that see the positive side of the girls' DA, and I'll be writing about that shortly. I think that having really high coaching standards for the highest level, you know, there may be some benefit to that. Most parents don't understand offsides. They're constantly yelling about it. I hear you, Sarah. I was at a game, I've talked about this before, where the parent was so frustrated with a call and they're yelling 10 feet, 10 feet, when it's really 10 yards. So yes, just hearing parents on the sidelines. We'll talk about sideline communication. Definitely. I'm trying to think how to say her name. Candida, a coach that's not educated or experienced enough. Yes, we need to be pushing for more coaching education and be aware of those things. So thanks for your comments, people. I really know that you know, there's a lot of things that people are stressed about, and that's exactly what I've done with the Soccer Parenting Association. Is I've tried to clue into what are the nuances of stress that I've personally felt with my two children who play at, you know, one plays at a very high level, my son plays at a participation level. What are some of the stresses that I felt, and what am I hearing from other parents? And when I clue into those little stressful comments or stressful thoughts, then I've created content about it. These are some of the other parenting stress points we'll get to quickly. Performance of your child. You know, we're stressed about that if our child isn't performing to the level that we think that they should be. Mindset, the mental side of the game. If our child isn't you know, is getting upset after they make a mistake, or if they keep missing opportunities and are getting down on themselves, or those types of things. Sometimes parents get stressed about winning. We need to be real here. You know, we might be level-headed parents and are really trying hard not to care so much about winning, but that is a big stress of youth soccer parents, and it is something that we need to continue to address so that we can, yes, we want our children to win and to compete so that they try to win, but we can't let that be the litmus test for if something is successful or not. Parents get stressed about injuries. Generally speaking, we get stressed about the next level. Should my child go from rec to travel, or should they try out for the DA? Or what does that DA mean for my son or for my daughter? Or does my child really have the talent to play in college? At what level? So this next level, whatever that might be, is certainly a stressor for parents. Unqualified coaches is something, as we talked about already, that definitely stresses people out. When our children are playing at the wrong level, If they're playing at a level that's too high and so they're not getting enough playing time or they're not enjoying themselves as much, or maybe the opposite, if they're playing at a level that's too low, that can be stressful for parents. You know, referee issues are stressful. We know that. Playing time is one of the key things that coaches always talk about. I don't want to talk about parents about playing time, but you know, that's a hard thing. I've written about that before, sitting on the sidelines waiting for your child to get in the game, and how that feels. It's definitely a stress. Positions that kids are playing, when your child is struggling, when your instincts as parents are kicking in and they're saying, wait a second, something here doesn't quite feel right. When those instincts are kicking in, then that certainly is a stress point for parents. And for pathways, I wrote about that last week, about my daughter's decision to be a CIT at camp instead of going to ID camps for colleges this summer, and how that felt for her to be on a different pathway. But those pathways can be stressful too. Like all of a sudden your child, without even realizing it, you know, you go to tryouts and you realize, oh my gosh, now we're on a team that we have to travel 3 hours 2 weekends out of the month to go and to play our season league games. Is this something that we really want? And we kind of can sometimes get sucked into these pathways. And of course, there's many more things that stress us out as parents. So again, we're trying to alleviate that stress. One of the key ways to do that is by educating yourselves. I've created the soccer parenting platform, the mysoccerparenting.com platform, to try to educate parents. It's a resource for clubs. I have more and more clubs that are joining in, providing all of this content that you see here to their parents. If any of you have any questions about that, I know many of you are already members, but we alleviate our stress by talking about it, by thinking about it, by evaluating it, by being mindful of it, are all key things that we need to do to try to alleviate this stress. Now, is everyone stressed? No, they're not. They're really not. There's many soccer parents that go out to the sidelines that are looking and watching this game right now and have no stress whatsoever. They're just living in the moment. They're very mindful of just the joy of their child competing, and that really for them is perfect. They are this level-headed parent without stress, and that's fantastic. That doesn't mean that they don't need to be engaged. Parents need to look at engagement as an essential thing in youth sports, not just in soccer, but parents need to start getting more involved and have a bigger voice. Even the ones that aren't stressed at all, their engagement is essential. I like to think of this like the PTA. Like the PTA in our schools is really just ensuring that the mission of our schools is being lived out. Whether or not we're happy or we're not, we're getting involved with the PTA. I think that getting involved and being an engaged soccer parent, it falls along the same lines as that. So what is engagement? Let's just define this a little bit better. Engagement is when parents and club staff are working together to support and improve the learning, the development, the health of the children and families through actively participating, through communicating, through collaborating. You know, I think that this is a great example or a great definition of engagement and really serves as sort of a litmus test of how we need to get more involved. You know, we need to be working together. We need to be thinking about the learning and the development, the health of our children. As parents, that's why we want to get engaged. It's not so that our child makes the top team or does all of those things. It's just to positively impact the life of our children. And I think that clubs and many clubs around the country are starting to realize the benefits that soccer can have on families as well. So we need to think of this sort of engagement as being a family affair. So I love looking at these benefits of engagement in schools and then compare them to clubs and to soccer. There's lots of great studies about engagement in schools and what parents who are engaged in schools, the impact and the effect that it has on the school. And there's a great study that was done that looked at over 140 different studies that have been performed in the last 15 years and compiled a list of the key positive things that happen when parents are engaged. And this is what they came up with. Schools that have engaged parents are higher performing schools. They have consistent homework completion. Their children achieve more. Schools who have engaged parents have children who have better self-esteem and show higher aspirations. They have a lower dropout rate. They have more satisfied teachers, and they have parents whose perceptions of the school improve. So that's what we know about schools who engage parents. And let's relate this to a club. So higher performing clubs. You know, this is always a trick question I ask when I'm going around the country and I'm speaking. What is a higher performing clubs? And invariably, parents or coaches are thinking in their minds, or some of them raise their hand and say it out loud. It's like they win more games. And that's not at all what we're talking about. A higher performing club is positively impacting the lives of more children in a deeper way. That's what we need to seek, and that's what parents being engaged will result in. We want children to play on their own. We want them to go outside and play. We want them to work on their skills themselves. And so parents who are engaged in the youth soccer experience of their children and with their clubs, their children will play on their own. Their children will achieve more. Maybe they will live up to their potential and thrive. Children will have better self-esteem and show higher aspirations. Of course, that's what we seek for our children. And we don't want them to quit playing. You know, we know the statistic of 70% of children drop out of youth sports at the age of 13. We need kids to stay involved with sports because it's a healthy thing to do. Clubs who engage parents will have more satisfied coaches, and then the parents' perceptions of the club will improve. So when we take a snapshot and we say, what will be the result of parents being more engaged, it's just amazing to think of all these positive things, because this is really what we're seeking for our children and what clubs are seeking as well. So let's jump in, and again, I encourage you to ask any questions along the way as I get into these pillars and to things that parents need to do to get more involved. Certainly encourage you to get in. I'm just going to do a time check real quick. Okay, good. So the 6 pillars of soccer parenting. I've divided the Soccer Parenting Association and all the content that I develop into 6 potential areas, 6 specific areas, what I call the 6 pillars of soccer parenting. These are essentially the categories. So if you go onto either of the blogs from soccerparenting.com or mysoccerparenting.com and you do a category search, the categories are these 6 pillars. The first one is the body, and then we also have the coach or the club. Those are areas that I'm developing content around. We need to be educated, and parents need to get more information about the mind, the mental side of the game for their children. Parents need to get more information about the game itself, the nuances of the game. Parents need information about the next level and what that means for their child. And also parents need information about themselves, how they can be the most exceptional soccer parent possible. So those are the 6 pillars of soccer parenting. Again, the categories that we have. I also have 6 value statements. And our values are what guide our behaviors. And so what I've done is I've connected the value statements to the pillars. So each of the value statements here, and these are available to you in the handout section to download. You'll see it right there. It says mission and values, letter size. This document here is available for you to download. But these six value statements are each connected to one of the different pillars. And let me go through and explain. These are the key areas that, and just some thoughts that I have, and if you have other ideas, certainly just pop them into the question section. But these are the different areas that I've come up with in terms of the value and then the ways that parents can be engaged and educated when it comes to that. So we have value statement number 1, active health. We acknowledge the importance of long-term athletic development, and we understand that youth soccer participation supports an active lifestyle. The longer that children continue to play sports, the more likely they are to be healthy and active adults. Obviously, we know that as parents, this is one of our value statements that needs to drive our actions. So when we're questioning things about our child and their environment, we can go back to this value statement, and these value statements can help drive our actions. In terms of education for parents when it comes to the body, these are some things that we need to start thinking about. LTID. You know, I hadn't heard of this concept of long-term athlete development up until a couple of years ago. So I had been an active youth coach for 23 years before I even ever heard this concept. It's essential that parents understand just the long-term process of athletic development, of their individual athletes' development, and what are the steps that are involved with that. We've written about that on Soccer Parenting. Dealing with minor muscle injuries. You know, so many parents I've dealt with have put heat on a freshly strained muscle injury, which will really not necessarily help it. So we talk about those things. Parents need to be educated and engaged on, is it ice versus heat? Can you help your child understand if they're injured or if they're hurt, so that they can go to their coach and they can talk about how they're feeling? Because those are some differences there. Parents need information when it comes to the body about considerations for growth. If your child's going through a growth spurt, when are they most likely to get injured? What are some of these injuries that our children will be dealing with? Definitely parents need information about recovery. There's a lot of conversation going on right now about tournaments and how important they really are to development. And if playing 2 games in 1 day is really the best thing for our kids, or playing 5 games in 2 days is necessarily the best thing for our children. So we need to understand recovery and how our body recovers so that our kids can stay healthy. Parents need information about periodization. This is a coach's ability to plan over the course of the entire season the different load and demands that they'll place on their children. So if you have children that are playing at a high level in the DA or in the ECNL, those coaches are clued into these concepts of periodization, and they should be planning their season-long, year-long schedule on throughout a periodization model with different ups and downs. Parents need information about specialization and how when a child can specialize or should specialize, and going through all of those processes. Obviously, parents need information about nutrition as well. So those are some examples based on value statement 1 and the body. The second value statement I want to talk about is the coach and the club. So the value statement that's related to that is this concept of coach integrity. We acknowledge the positive impact a coach can make on a child's life, and we commit to holding coaches to high standards of integrity, professionalism, and compassion, so our children feel optimistic about their potential, even in the face of defeat. So this is one of the key concepts of soccer parenting. And, you know, the clubs that are joining the soccer parenting movement or becoming club members at mysoccerparenting.com, they're excited about this value statement because they are ones that are really trying to, you know, empower their coaches to impact the lives of children. So as we're seeing more and more clubs get involved with the soccer parenting movement, we're going to hopefully see, I believe we'll see, just raising the game in terms of the quality of the coaches that we have. Parents need to understand coach education, and these are all things that we've written about and we pushed out. You know, what are the different licensing pathways for coaches? If you have a coach that says, I have this license versus that license, does that matter? Is it important? What does it even mean? Parents need to have understandings for expectations for a training session. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening within youth soccer right now and youth coaching about what's the best way to coach our kids. I am coaching a team right now. I was coaching them last night. I do not believe in kids standing in lines and doing individual skill work. I'd rather teach kids the cognitive side of the game, understanding positions and spaces and how to make the right decisions, and feel like through their playing, they'll develop those skills. So if a parent was watching my practice last night versus other coaches' practices, they might be a little confused. Why isn't this coach doing all the skill work? My kid's not going to learn enough with this coach. I want to go to this other coach. So parents understanding, you know, what the expectations are for a training session and what different training styles and coaching styles might be is essential. Parents need to have good expectations for clubs. We need to have more education in dealing with bully coaches. I got an email the week before last from a parent who was asking information about the environment their child was playing in. She had a 13 or 11-year-old daughter, and you know, she was saying that the coach was really aggressive and forcing her to only play in one position all the time and cursing at the kids, dropping the F-bomb all the time. And I just stopped and I was like, that's not okay. As parents, we need to understand that that's not okay. We don't need to let our child stay in that environment because we feel like we don't have other choices. We need to sort of feel a little empowered in dealing with coaches. Parents need information on handling conflict of the coach, appropriate coaching expectations, and guidelines for communications with a coach. Now, these are all key ways that we can really support parents and help you in this coach relationship and providing you information. These are things that people haven't historically given you really good, solid information about. What are some guidelines for how to talk to the coach about playing time issues, those types of things. So parents getting information about that will really, really help elevate the game. So the third value statement is about life lessons. We support our children's youth soccer participation because we want them to develop grit, determination, and resiliency while learning empathy, compassion, and solidarity that will make them caring and committed adults. I mean, this is really what we seek for our children. And the soccer parenting pillar that's connected to this is the mind. So we want to help our children develop a growth mindset. you don't know what growth mindset is. I can't encourage you to look it up enough. There's a lot of information about it on Soccer Parenting and on the My Soccer Parenting platform, but it's a child that believes that through practice they'll actually get better instead of a child who feels like they're just not good enough. You know, parents need information about dealing with mistakes, failures, setbacks, and how they can support their child when they make a big mistake in the game. Dealing with injury, coming back from injury, the mental side of the game when it comes to that. Preparing for a game, what you can say to your child just before the game, in the car on the way to the game, and what you shouldn't say to them so that they're in the right mindset to perform. We talked about grit, determination, resiliency. Parents need information on how they can support their child in learning leadership skills. And also, a great concept that I'm really sort of fascinated with these days. Jerry Smith brought it up to me in one of the interviews I did with him for the Soccer Parenting Summit last year, and that's this concept of followership. And so these are great lessons that parents can help their children learn through sport, and that if parents receive information on ways that they can support their child with this, then the game will be elevated even more. The Soccer Parenting Value Statement number 4 of Soccer Knowledge is talking about when we foster our children's love of the game, we can foster our children's love of the game by seeking to educate ourselves about the rules, nuances, and intricacies of the game. A parent mentioned that in the stress. You know, parent not understanding the law of the game, offsides. I've written about offsides. There's a great article in the Soccer Talk section about laws of the game, offsides, the handball. Developmental learning pathways, how kids learn soccer, why we start from 4v4 and move to 11v11. Basic tactics within the game. Parents need to understand that, whether it's different systems of play or different positions that children might play in. Receiving a technical, understanding of the technical basics of the game. The concept that I brought forward a moment ago about juggling, and the parent was saying, my coach asked my child to be able to juggle the ball 35 times by the end of the summer. How do I teach them? How do I help them? So we'll get into that. We get into that information. Terminology, systems of play. So those are all key things about the game that we need to be educating parents about. In terms of the next level, so the soccer parenting pillar of the next level is connected to the value statement of love of the game. We acknowledge that every child has varying levels of athletic potential, and we seek to establish an environment where all children can play youth soccer because they love to play, not because they want a college scholarship or a professional contract. And that's connected to this next level pillar. So understanding your child's potential, that's a key thing. It's really hard for parents to understand that, especially as they're themselves developing. But parents need to be cluing into that. What is my child's potential? Parents need to understand the ADM. This is the athlete development model. It's being pushed out by U.S. Soccer. Part of the standards that U.S. Soccer has moved towards in terms of the small-sided play, removing heading from the game, the different field sizes, those are all part of the ADM that the United States Olympic Committee is pushing forward and that U.S. Soccer has joined in supporting. I've attached here in your handouts the whole USOC, the ADM brochure. It's, I think, 24 pages, but really important things for us parents for you to understand. Should my child play up? What's the difference between ODP, ID2, PDPs, training centers? There's so many different things that are happening right now. Parents need information about what these next level pathways are for their children. Should we do specialized training? Is there a value to getting a personal trainer? What should we do for summer camps? What makes sense? And guidance along this college process. So those things with the next level tie into the value statement number 5. And finally, the parents. So this goes with the value statement number 6, this balanced outlook. We seek to use a clear perspective when making soccer choices for our children, ensuring that the decisions are in the best interest of the child's long-term happiness, their contentment, their positive attitude. And this is where parents really need to just be using their instincts. This is where parents need education about sideline behavior. They need some perspective to make sure that they're always going back to the term that I use a lot in my rating, at the end of the day, what we're really seeking for our children. The level of involvement that a parent should have. How engaged should you be in your child's actual participation? When should the child talk to the coach versus you go talk to the coach? Parents need help and support in dealing with crazy soccer parents. They need support in dealing with their relationship with the coach. We'll talk about that in one of my 4 points here. being mindful, and making the best decisions for your children. So all of those are key things that parents need some more education from. So let me move on to the end of the presentation here and talk about 4 ways that all youth soccer parents must be engaged. Now, really, this list I have was like 20, and I'm like, okay, what are 4 ones that I can talk about today? So there's lots of ways that we can be engaged and ways that we can be more involved. These are 4 that I want to highlight with you. So the first is to establish trust in the coach-parent relationship. This is a key thing for me when I'm doing coach education and talking to coaches about establishing trust. Obviously, it goes both ways, that we really need to rethink this relationship with a coach and have establishing trust and that connection be one of the key things that we do. These are some ways that we can do it. The first is build rapport. You know, I'm a youth soccer coach. I love it when parents come up to me and talk about other things. When they ask me about my kids or ask me about my day or ask me about what I did for vacation this summer, you know, when we're not talking about soccer, those are really nice conversations for me to have, and it helps me build this connection. It also helps me realize that, hey, this is a parent that really just cares about these relationships. They're not over concerned about the soccer. And a lot of parents just feel stressed when they go to talk to the coach, and so they naturally talk to the coach about soccer things. But building rapport, talking about things outside of soccer. When we're trying to build trust, we need to listen first. So not jump to just assumptions. If your child isn't getting enough playing time that you feel like they deserve, or if they're struggling, or you're not quite sure what's going on, really just trying to listen to the coach, listen to their perspective first. In establishing trust, we really need to clarify our expectations for the relationship, our expectations for what the youth soccer experience for our children will really result in at the end of the day. We need to demonstrate gratitude. I love it when kids thank me for my work that I do with them, or when a parent, you know, sends me a quick email just with some feedback about something their child said. You know, those types of things keep me going. Those types of things keep coaches going. Just demonstrating some gratitude is a great way for parents to establish some trust. Right your wrongs. If you get frustrated, if you, act in a way that you're not proud of, just go to the coach and take responsibility for those things. Keep your commitments. If you commit your child to playing a team sport, you can do everything that you can to make sure that your child's there on time, that they're prepared, that you're helping them make sure that they're keeping their commitment. And showing loyalty. This is obviously one of the things that coaches get more frustrated about than anything. The good quality coach who's trying to do the right thing and has a parent that's just jumping around to different teams or leaves the team without much information is not demonstrating loyalty. And there's a lot of reasons for that, a lot of reasons that parents jump around. But really, once parents are engaged and educated and can feel confident that the youth soccer environment their child in is a good one, then hopefully we'll see these issues with loyalty start to be diminished. So another way that parents can really get more engaged is learn about player pathways. Identify your child's most likely pathway. This is a really important concept in terms of player pathways. Things to think about is your child on a performance track, or are they on more of a participation track? Is your child most likely to play at a high level and aspire to go on and play collegiately? Do they have the athletic potential to be able to do that? So as a parent, just sort of taking your step back. If you look at the ADM that the USOC is putting out, again, I have that brochure attached in the handouts here, you'll see that sort of the pathways diverge as you get a little bit older into a performance pathway or a participation pathway. Don't let the fear of missing out control you. We need to, this is what I wrote about with my daughter. Did my daughter miss out on not going to ID camps for colleges this summer just before her junior year? Yes, she definitely missed out. But we didn't let the fear of that control us and not let her do what she wanted to do this summer, and that was to be a CIT at her summer camp that she had attended the past 7 years. So we can't think about fear of missing out. We can't let that rule us. There was a great article that I pushed forward about that and about my daughter's camp experience. If you haven't checked that out and you want to learn more about fear of missing out, go ahead and read that article. It's on the Soccer Parenting public blog. Listen to your child. A lot of times what we seek for our children isn't necessarily in collaboration or connected with what our children seek for themselves. So it's important, essential really, as parents, that we're listening to our child. and that we're following our instincts. If it doesn't quite feel right, if something about the path they're on doesn't necessarily feel like it's the right one, the commitment level is too high based on really what they're wanting, and it's leading to them getting frustrated and thinking about quitting, then we need to follow our instincts and say, wait a second, we're going to go to a lower level team where you can not feel as much stress, and then you can still enjoy it. Find new paths. You know, one of the key things that we're starting to see happen, and I love to see this happening in the future of soccer, is when kids are getting into that older level, let's say they're the U18, U17, playing a recreational level, their clubs all across the country are moving away from playing 11v11 because they can't get enough kids to compete. And so instead they're playing 7v7 and often doing a co-ed. I think that's fantastic, because really what we want is our kids to keep playing sports. And so, you know, that's a new path that's starting to evolve for children that is really exciting. A third thing that parents need to do in terms of getting more engaged is be aware of and deal with your parents' stress. You know, we just really need to understand the stress that we're feeling about our child's youth soccer experiences and deal with it. How can we do that? Find a coach that you trust. Follow your instincts, find a coach, find a club that you can really trust. The coach should be welcoming you. They should be engaging with you. You should be able to talk to them. They should be opening the door to you. All of those things need to be expected. And again, the clubs that are joining the soccer parenting movement and becoming club members at mysoccerparenting.com, they're all coaches that are, they're clubs that are seeking to educate their coaches to become coaches they trust. Of course, coaches parents can trust. Of course, not everything's perfect yet. You can deal with your parents' stress by seeking education. Obviously, I've created that in the My Soccer Parenting platform, but in addition to that, you can seek education through a variety of other sources. US Soccer has some great courses. United Soccer Coaches has some great lower-level coach education courses that might be helpful for you as parents. So just seeking education in as many different ways as possible. And you can deal with your parents' stress by maintaining perspective. Again, the concept of, at the end of the day, what is it that we really, really seek for our children? A fourth thing that parents need to be able to do is to be educated about sideline behavior. And this is a key topic for me. I've been working kind of almost around the clock this last week, it feels like, developing the Sideline Project, which is a new project I'm launching at the end of this week to try to work on parent communication from the sidelines. So parents, we need to be more educated about sideline behavior. A lot of us feel like we're level-headed parents and we're not like screaming at referees. We're not communicating in a hostile fashion, so therefore we're okay and we're doing okay. So obviously with sideline behavior, we know we need to end hostile communication. A lot of that is the result of crazy soccer parents, and so as we take their power away, hopefully that hostile communication will end. But also parents, you really need to understand the difference between supportive and distracting communication. And that's one of the key components of the Sideline Project, is to help parents be educated about, is what you're saying supporting your child, or is what you're saying actually distracting them? So that instructional type communication coming from the sidelines is generally distracting our children. And so we need to actually stop that distracting communication as well. So there's more information about the Sideline Project. If you go to mysoccerparenting.com at the homepage and move to the bottom of the page, you can be taken to a form that you can fill out to get more information about the Sideline Project. So again, just to sort of recap, what I was hoping to accomplish through all of this today is putting your thoughts into words. So hopefully some of you parents that are listening sort of had a couple of aha moments where you're like, yes, that's what I've been trying to say, or that's what I feel, or she's saying just what I've always thought. That's what we're trying to do with the Soccer Parenting Association, because again, I'm listening to the stresses, I'm listening to the questions, I'm listening to comments from parents, and then I'm trying to create content and information and education and engagement platforms that are focusing on the different concepts that I'm hearing from parents in terms of what they're thinking, what they might be stressed about. And I really hope that at the end of the day here that you're starting to rethink the level of engagement. So even if you're a level-headed parent that feels no stress, it's still essential that you start to think about parent engagement as a process that you really just need to get more involved with when it comes to youth soccer. I do believe that parent engagement is essential to moving the game forward. for all parents to get engaged. So do I have any other questions? I appreciate those of you who've been here the whole time. I do have a few more minutes here to take some questions. I need to hop onto this radio show in 10 minutes, but would love to hear if anyone has any other questions or comments or thoughts as I wrap it up here. Here's my contact information. Email is certainly the best way to reach out to me. You're welcome, Rachel. Thanks. Great. Appreciate that. I need to learn how to say her name. Candida, I think. Sorry. I know I've paused a couple times as I've been saying that. Excellent. Well, I don't see any other questions here. Last chance for questions. You're welcome, everybody. I appreciate it. It's great to see you all. Let's just keep moving forward. That's sort of my saying here is let's keep going. There's a lot that we need to do to improve the game and to support our children. And one of the key ways that we're going to do that is just by keeping these conversations going forward.